All of these issues that I deal with, people, Austinites, are concerned about. I've been dealing on a daily basis, protecting our environment and providing transportation. And I'd hope that you work with me on City Council, and I ask for your vote. Thank you.
Ms. Zone, thank you. Mr. Ingram?
Thank you. My name is Zach Ingram. I'm running for City Council in District 7. In 2013, I was called to action in regards to the training standards at the Austin Police Department, and I worked with them to improve those standards as they related to the handling of aggressive dogs. In a few short months, we went from something that was not even an idea to something that was implemented, and all of the officers attended that training by September of this year. So I have a track record of showing that I can get things done at the city level from the perspective of a citizen who shows concern. In addition to that, I come from a business background. I work primarily with the formation of new small businesses, so I'm very familiar with the licensing and permitting process, not only in Austin, but across the United States, so I bring unique perspective to that as well. I'm also someone who is not hearing about an affordability problem from his constituents, but someone who is living with that affordability problem currently. I signed a new lease October 1st. My rent went up $150 per month. So this is something that I'm passionate about, something that I bring unique experience and perspective on, and something that I look forward to getting to work on for you once elected.
Mr. Ingram, thank you. Mr. Boyd?
Good evening. So my name is Jeb Boyd. I'm a native Texan. I grew up in Liberty County, down between Houston and Beaumont, but I grew up coming to Austin frequently to visit family here. And I remember when it was a big deal when MOPAC only went as far as 45th Street. We've seen a lot of changes in Austin. And I moved here in 93, and my wife and I have certainly ridden through the changes we've seen over the last 20 years here. I have served on boards and commissions at the Parks Board, Downtown Commission, Wall Creek Commission, and 2012 Bond Commission. As an attorney, I've worked with community groups, local governments, state agencies, and federal agencies, getting people together to work on projects to improve our quality of life. And I'm looking forward to doing that here for the City of Austin by serving on the council. Thanks.
Mr. Boyd, thank you. We know that you all are here tonight because you want your questions answered. So the majority of the questions tonight are going to come from you. But I would like to start things off. And my first question to you all is, what do you see as the biggest issue confronting District 7, and how would you address it? And I want to turn things around this time. Mr. Boyd, if you could begin.
Affordability is the big issue. It's the issue that almost everyone brings up when we talk on these issues, and it means, whether you're a young person looking for a place to rent, whether you're looking for a first home to buy, whether you're looking to downsize your home and to move, but want to stay and live in your neighborhood, whether you're worried about being able to continue to live in your home and pay your taxes, or whether you're a business or worried about building out your space. Affordability is important across all those issues, and it's the big threat certainly in the neighborhood as well too. There is much that can be done on this in terms of homestead exemptions from the city, fair tax appraisal process. Certainly keeping a check on the city spending, and maintaining our utility fees, keeping them as limited as possible as well. Plus, transportation. Total monthly cost in Austin, about 60% is housing, 40% is transportation. If we tackle that too, we can make some big improvement.
Mr. Boyd, thank you. Mr. Ingram.
I would agree with my co-candidate, Jeb Boyd, that affordability is the biggest issue. As I just mentioned, it's one I'm currently living with. So it's something that needs to be addressed. And ultimately, I see a few ways, probably 5 or 6 ways that we could immediately improve affordability for Austinites. But 2 things that I'm passionate about, as I mentioned, the permitting process. Essentially, this boils down to a supply and demand issue. We need to get more homes built to drop the price of rent and drop the sale price of homes. And to do that, we need to fix the permitting process at City Hall. So we need to rework the city code and make sure that it's something that is streamlined and efficient, where we utilize technology to the best of our ability so that we can shorten the process for developers and get more homes built quickly. I also want to look at Austin Energy like a business. For a multi-billion-dollar company to have no true oversight committee and no one really managing the books to make sure that we're maximizing efficiency for what is a city municipality is unreasonable. So we have to look at that like a business and return those savings to the citizens to reduce electric bills and, again, bring down rent and sale price of homes.
Thank you, Mr. Ingram. Ms. Zone?
Really what's threatening us right now that I see and have heard on the campaign trail is we feel like government doesn't work for us anymore, and that our quality of life is being impacted. And we talk about affordability, but that, you know, is transportation cost, it's housing cost, it's cost of living. How do we get a handle on that? How do we stop this congestion when we're growing? It's really a growth issue, and trying to balance the growth and still protecting our environment. That is a real critical concern because District 7 has a lot of creeks. We have some open space we have to be cautious of, and we can't be taxing and putting out bonds on our backs. And so it's really a holistic way we have to take an approach on everything. And it's really damaging it's not damaging, but it's harming our quality of life.
Ms. Zone, thank you. Mr. English?
There are many, many issues that people would consider the top issue, depending upon where they live, what their circumstances are. And it's difficult to pick one. But what I hear on the campaign trail that's pretty universal is traffic and congestion. It's an issue that affects everyone across the city, across the district, and it becomes such an issue that we're not going to deal with this problem. We're not going to solve this problem with one answer. I think the city can do a much better job of proposing a solution than a rail proposal, which costs too much, does too little, it's not going to take traffic off the road. We need to look at a diversified solution that would be vastly improved and expanded bus service, ride sharing. I'm not against rail in general. I think a better route can be selected. We need to look at options like more bike lanes, Uber, Lyft. There's been some questions recently. In fact, I think the council addressed that today as far as the legalities and the regulations. But many options need to be looked at as far as addressing this issue, and we can do that.
Thank you, Mr. English. Mr. Whittle?
I think without a doubt, when we talk to people, affordability is the one that comes up. You know, we're hoping for some relief from the legislature this year. I know that Senator Watson is working on it. What we're really hoping for is a 20% homestead exemption with a cap. The cap is really to prevent it from becoming a regressive exemption. And my feeling is that someone that has a $2 or $3 million house doesn't get a commercial exemption. Metro, and I think that will go a long way towards some of the transportation affordability issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Whittle. Mr. Paver?
There was an article a few months back that referred to District 7 as out of town. Rather than going to affordability and transportation, which are obviously two very important things, I just like to contextualize what the district looks like. In the southern area, that you've got a lot of speculation from new growth coming into town. In the north and the northwest, you have the Domain, which is continuing to grow. East, you have a little bit more of a rural area, but there's going to be speculative growth there as well. Burnett, Anderson, and Lamar are major corridors that run through District 7, and development there needs to be directed in a way that doesn't interfere with neighborhoods. We need public transportation that actually focuses on ridership, that we need to develop transportation nodes rather than predictive nodes of where things are going to happen. So the city needs to play a larger role in directing where things go so that we protect neighborhoods and we grow this community in a sensible way. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Paver. Ms. Poole?
Well, affordability for sure, and there are a few things that I would recommend. First is reduce the utility rates. We have a recent change in the electric utility where the light industrial and commercial rates were added into the residential rates, and that effectively raised our rates. And I would revisit that decision on council. We need to increase our housing stock, and we need to increase the mix of housing that is available in it, not just 1 bedroom, but 2 and 3 bedrooms, so we can have housing for families who are moving here or who live here now and can't find housing. I would improve the routes on the transit system, as my colleagues here are talking about, increasing the ability of people to get on the buses, more frequent routes, closer bus stops. We could encourage people to use transportation that would cut down on their costs and also help keep our air clean. And I would work to keep the bonded indebtedness down. We need a balance between the bonds that we sell for transportation. The rail bond is a big one right now that I oppose because I know that we have needs currently in the community. I'll finish that comment
Ms.
later.
Poole.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Salazar.
All right, I'm going to sound like everybody else, but it's affordability. But another way of affordability, I want to say we need cheaper housing. I worked on housing issues for about 10 years. And right now, we lack housing for families. And that's a big issue because people in Austin want to have children. They want to grow with the city. And right now, the city is saying, we don't have room for you. Now, there's other areas that we can build cheaper housing, but we lack connectivity. And that is bus routes. I ride the bus every day, so I know the problems with that. At 11:30, our bus system stops. This segregates much of our population, and 25% of Austinites depend on buses to get around. So we need to build cheaper housing, and we need to connect Austin better. Thank you so much.
Mr. Salazar, thank you. I'd like to turn it over to Michael Now with the Austin Monitor, who is going to be asking your questions tonight.
Thanks, Shannon. Are getting a lot of questions from y'all. Thank you very much. Some things are
support on against it. $1 million road improvement, good idea. The chunk towards state legislation, bargain here. Austin, can improve more.
Bad idea. And the big idea is we're not moving people. And it'd be one thing if we didn't have a demand and we were trying to spur development in this area. It makes perfect sense. It happens all the time. I can't, in my conscience and as a professional, expect you to pay for something the majority of us won't be able to use. And I'm not going to say in our lifetime, but certainly in the next 20 years, unless you decide to relocate to that area. I'm not going to have you spend money that's not going to help the congestion. And that's the problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. English.
Well, I've taken a great deal of time surveying and canvassing residents of the district and asking a very, very simple question. What would you expect any rail system to accomplish? And the answer is almost universally take cars off the road. That's a rational, reasonable response. And if that is the goal of light rail, the current proposal does a very poor job of that. If rail and development go hand in hand, but it's a chicken and egg scenario, what comes first? You can build development and then add transportation to it, or build transportation, development comes with it. In this case, I think the priorities for this package are completely upside down. We have a rapidly expanding population here. Our infrastructure is overstressed. And I believe, and I think that the numbers bear it out, the ridership here is far too low. And this route has been picked primarily for the development that can occur along it, rather than helping you, the residents of this district and this city, get from place to place more quickly and take cars off the road. The data simply doesn't back up and justify the expense for this system.
Thank you, Mr. Whittle.
I'm not supporting this rail bond. This is one of the places that I am disagreeing with the current council. A lot of it comes down to density and the way the city's built. If you look at some of the cities where rail has been successful recently. For instance, Austin's density is about 2,500 people per square mile. Portland is close to 5,000. I think Minneapolis is close to 7,000. So just the way our city's built, it's stretched out. And I think if we had $10 billion laying around and we could run rail all over the city, it might work. I got to tell you this, I always qualify my answer because I love rail. I grew up in the Northeast. I came to Texas in 1976. I use rail all the time in New York, Philadelphia, Baltimore, and Washington, but a lot of it's underground. And boy, I'll tell you what, that's a whole nother story to do something like that. I'm just not going to support this bond issue. Thank you.
Thank you.
Look at any of the CAP metrics, which are over 80, and a lot of empty buses, infrequency of routes, and routes that don't run late enough. We need to focus on things people.
Had opportunity more proposal about your opinion on proposal capacity. I've served on 3 bond committees and I understand the number of projects needed in our community. The 20 bond package didn't come close to addressing the infrastructure and the operations and maintenance issues that are out there in our community. And if we put more than $1 billion of our bonded indebtedness into rail, that will absorb the capacity into the future, a lot further into the future than red flag for me from my service on the bond committees. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Salazar.
I'm against rail because it costs too much and it helps too few. And it really doesn't pass the smell test. I mean, we have issues with our transportation already that our transportation does not really serve our population. And a part of city council is to serve your population. We need to expand our bus service to at least 3:30 in the morning because we have people that work 3rd shifts and night shifts and cannot get home. They actually walk 2 miles so they can get to a bus that can take them home. That's appalling. I did employment for many years, and that was one of the questions that one of my clients had. They're like, how can you build $1 million racetrack, but I can't get home when I get off of work? And I can tell you, I was a hard case manager, but that was one of the questions I didn't have a response to. And so we need to take care of our citizens first. We need to strengthen our public bus infrastructure. And then after that is taken care of, we can look at real rail that serves people. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Boyd?
Well, unlike my opponents, I do support the rail proposal. And also, unlike most of them, I actually participated in the public meetings and plannings. Through the Alliance Public Transportation, I've been involved in the rails discussions of most of the last 10 years. And over the last 2 years, I participated in most of the public meetings and hearings developing this proposal, listened to the citizen comments and concerns, looked at all the alternatives as they came through the process, and I suggested a few myself. So the Riverside portion of the rail scored at the top of every technical criteria and every criteria. I was just down Riverside before this meeting, and there was lots of people down there and lots of traffic down there. It's going to connect the convention center, the Capitol, UT, the medical school, county offices on the airport, a new rail station on 45th Street, ACC Highland. It's going to make the Red Line work better. Folks that are now traveling to UT and the Capitol will be able to go straight down from the 45th Street station to that. It's been designed to maximize our opportunities for federal funding, and if we don't, we need to do something now. If we don't do it now, it may be a very long time before we have another chance.
Thank you. Michael?
Another theme that's emerging is sort of a look at your priorities as a district representative and your priorities as a citywide representative. So I'd like to ask you in a couple different ways from a couple different folks. how will you balance neighborhood interests and citywide interests when they clash? That's one question that I've gotten. And under 10.1, would you avoid the gridlock of 10 individuals looking out solely for their district's best interests?
And we'll start with Ms. Zone.
Right. I could tell you just from this campaign, being out there talking to the other candidates in the other districts, that they want the best for Austin as a whole. And what happens is then you can focus on issues within your district. I don't see why you have to have one or the other, because district issues are specific problems that can be addressed while we're still taking care of budget issues, transportation issues. You know, we have up in the northwest area, there's traffic congestion. Well, that traffic congestion takes it all the way through, and it takes you into District 10, District 7, District 4. But there's also just as bad down south, and you're going through the others. So you can't just be a monoculture person. And the type of work that I do, and I've been doing for 20 years, is we solve the district issues one problem at a time, and we handle the city as a whole, and we make sure that everyone's on board with it.
Thank you. Mr. English?
Well, this is an area in which I excel. I had 30 years of negotiation experience. I also spent a great deal of time, many thousands of hours, working on the 10-1 campaign, and it was a phenomenal experience. People from all walks of life, all areas of town, all income levels, all ethnic backgrounds, put aside their differences to focus on a common good. That's what this council is going to be required of this council. One vote doesn't accomplish anything. It's going to require cooperation, a sense of mutual respect, and a willingness to see the greater good. Yes, there are district-specific issues. They can be addressed, but they have to be addressed in the context of how they benefit everyone. Yes, it will require some teamwork. Understand that there'll be some times, or especially early on, when that may be difficult to achieve. But with the right spirit, when people approach a situation with a sense of compromise and self-respect, respect for their fellow council members, we can accomplish a great deal and have a great deal of experience in working and finding common points of interest.
Thank you. Mr. Whittle?
I'm sure with the people in this room, you've all served on a committee somewhere, maybe your church, your school, your work. Some of you have probably served on boards and commissions and worked with the city. The reality of it is this is going to be a challenge, because the reality of it is that this 10-1 is going to be about individual interest. But we're going to have to find a way to work as a team, to work for the good of the city, and still maintain the support of our districts. I think it's very possible. I think a lot of it is just going to be that willingness to compromise and that willingness to listen. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Paver?
Sorry. It's a difficult question to not answer in generalities and cliches, but I think one of the things that we must do, in the mindset that I know people are skeptical about in this very audience, is that you put someone into office hoping that they have the people's interest in self-preservation and their own political capital. I think that you have to be willing to sacrifice some of your own sort of political capital in order to do what's right for the entire city. I'm tired of this polarizing fight that becomes a zero-sum game between what I have and you don't have, or whether you're pro-development or pro-neighborhood. Everybody needs to be a little bit of both, and we need to start thinking in ways that actually make room for what's coming to Austin while protecting what we have here. So if you can put your interest in the people's interests, then I think that you can accomplish what you intend to. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Poole?
Thanks. Well, I think in January, when the new council is seated, one of the first orders of business will be to determine how all 11 new members work together, setting our protocols and communication strategies, and how we're going to work with the staff, and how we represent our district, specific discrete districts, in the larger, greater whole, because we are all Austin. And I do not believe that we will lose that. That would be my hope, that we do not lose the fact that we are all Austin. There are specific needs in each district that are unique to each district. It would be the responsibility of the elected representative from that district to bring those concerns forward and to advocate for them, and to find additional support for whatever the projects are so they can move forward, always keeping an eye of the overall safety and welfare and health of the entire community. And I'm pretty optimistic that that will happen. I think that the city is behind us in trying to do that. Thank you.
Mr. Salazar.
I've never had political capital, but I've had a desire to serve the people, and I've done that. I've done it all over Austin. That's why my campaign says Pete is Austin, because through Caritas and Goodwill, I served people in Dove Springs, the east side, the south side, and all areas. Bat shop fires, we were part of triage teams that went over there. So for me, it's not getting to know the problems of other areas, because I've been working on them for the past 10 years. Not only do I know the other candidates, I know the people's problems. So I'm able to lead right off the bat because I simply have been putting in the work. And it's not an issue of people having an opportunity, it's just me being there, ready to serve for the capacity that I did. And my work's established. All you have to, you can Google it, and it's a part of that. You know, and it's not boasting, it's just, it was part of the field that I was there and I was working on. So I can start day one and lead. And every community will be behind me because they know me and they know my work. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Boyd?
Well, absolutely. Working against gridlock is job one, I think, for the new council, making sure that we all work together and work well for the interest of Austin as a whole. I think one of the best ways to balance the interest of the city versus the district is actually to be very active, involved in the interest of the district. I think we need to, as a council member, I would look to intervene early in an issue. Too often, the council has stayed aloof, and we've seen developers and neighborhoods just fall into the trenches when projects are first proposed, and then no one really goes anywhere. As a council member, I would like to get the parties together, try to identify the issues, early on. Focus on the issues as it goes up through the process of the council. And similarly, parks that are citywide and look to
in regard to neighborhoods, but either way, I'll answer it in that way. With changes that are coming to Austin, it's imperative that we work with neighborhood associations on their neighborhood plans and incorporate those plans into the changes that Austin's going through. So just like in District 7, I'll be fighting to protect your neighborhood association plans when it comes to zoning changes and code changes. I would expect the council members in the other districts to be doing the return of the control of these districts to the neighborhoods and to the people, so that you feel like you're the council and you just work through me, where you don't feel like you're miles away from City Hall and it's impossible to get my attention. So with that in mind, I would work to collaborate and communicate with the other districts on what their plans are and their visions are, and obviously we'll have to work together to get anywhere on this with 10 different districts all vying for the same attention and the same budget.
Thank you. Michael?
Thanks, Shannon. This is a different twist on the question. I think it's an interesting one worth singling out. Will your board and commission appointments be best from the district or best available?
Let's start with Mr. English.
That is a good question, and it's an important one because with the transition that we're going to be going through, there'll be a lot of appointments made. And I do favor, whenever possible, appointing individuals from the district. I think that's incumbent upon anyone that's on the council is to have a voice on the boards and commissions that affect the daily actions of the residents of the district, someone that speaks for the district, someone that has that personal experience. Failing that, you look for the next best option, which is to find someone who can meet the qualifications, who has the experience that you'd normally expect someone to have to make important decisions on planning, traffic, music. That's a big part of Austin. I love to sit in on their commission meetings. But appointing individuals is absolutely critical because they really run the machinery and make a lot of the decisions that actually affect council decisions and what happens in the city on a day-to-day basis. So they're critical decisions. District person first. Failing to find that person, then you look for the next best qualified person on a citywide basis.
Thank you. Mr. Whittle?
One of the things I learned working with the Restaurant Association is that so much of the work is actually done in committee on boards and commission's members. The reality is sometimes you have to find somebody with expertise. It just depends on the issue. I think it's going to be a case-by-case basis, but we would certainly look to our district first.
I think that logic would dictate that you would take the best available person.
Mr. Paver.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Mr. Paver speaking.
It's twice I jumped the gun. I think the logic would dictate that you take the best available person. These issues that boards and commissions debate about and put forth recommendations on do not stop at our boundaries. To the extent that there was a member available within the district and they were the best possible choice for a particular commission spot, I would definitely appoint them. But I think if you take a mindset that really is citywide and of benefit comprehensively, then you would look to the best available representative rather than an in-district one. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Poole.
I chaired the Bull Creek Road Coalition Design Principles Work Group, and there we needed expertise in landscaping, architecture, engineering, even. And we found a huge resource of expertise in the 7 neighborhoods that were part of the coalition. So I know that District 7 has a richness of ability and expertise and professional capacity. What I think may happen is that may not be the case in all of the other districts, and what I am considering and what I would offer to other districts if, for instance, they need a specific kind of an engineer and there isn't one, or there isn't anybody able to serve, because that's another big consideration, the time and the energy to serve on the boards and commissions, we would offer up nominees from District 7 to help the other districts fill the positions that they may not have nominees for. So I see District 7 as a tremendous resource for the city in this area.
Thank you. Mr. Salazar.
I think it would be a good problem to have. I mean, just to have a group of people ready to apply and spend their time. I think we need that. I think we need more people to apply. And I think Leslie's correct. District 7 has a vast group of people that other districts don't have. So that's why we can look for putting people within the district first. And then minus that, if there's areas that need more education, more focus, then we can go for the best person to serve. But like I said, we're truly blessed with the knowledge and scholarship that we have in District 7, and we just need to hope that we can help other people as well. But it's always going to be District 7 first, and then go on to the other list as that proceeds. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Boyd?
I think best in the district is certainly is a starting point. Having the district representatives on the council is not just on the council, but that accountability down into the boards and commissions, so that they can speak to the concerns and interest of the people in District 7 on the rest of the boards and commissions. Certainly, as others have said, there are some commissions that have specific technical requirements, and there's the issue of making sure we actually have someone. Hopefully, we'll have plenty of people from District 7 stepping up to serve on boards and commissions. But if not, then I would look elsewhere, certainly for the best available. Also, the mayor is going to be able to have appointments as well too, and I would certainly recommend people who I
never to undercut finding the best candidate. So if the best mind in Austin on transportation comes from South Austin and he's got the best ideas or she's got the best ideas, then that's who I want to work with, and that's who is the candidate. But certainly, the closer to home, the more personal those issues that we're dealing with, the better the results. So,
thank you, Ms. Zone.
I find it hard to believe that we couldn't find anyone qualified for our boards and commissions in District 7, as large as it is, and with 80,000 people. One of the things I do know, and hearing on the campaign trail, is that, and myself, is that we have the same people on the same boards and commissions making the same bad decisions. And there's a lot of people out there who have applied, who have a lot of qualifications, but current council or those in the past have not chosen them because they don't do the bidding for them. And that's going to change. And I really am going to make sure that District 7 is represented, because that's why we have the 10-1. And you can't tell me that there's not a civil engineer in here that's not qualified, or a wonderful landscape architect, or an artist, or a musician. So it's going to be hard to say that. And if they're in another district, that's great. Then that council person, I hope, will appoint them. But I'm here for you, and you are going to have a say at City Hall.
Michael.
Thanks, Shannon. Let's get a little local here. How would you address Burnett Road becoming a thoroughfare, as characterized in this card? Its traffic has tripled in the last 12 years.
Mr. Whittle.
Well, this issue with Burnett is a tough one because in the Imagine Austin plan, Burnett's considered a transit corridor. It's been considered as a transit corridor because it already has that traffic on it, and it's just going to continue. The reality of it is development is growing up there organically. I think what we have to do is try to work with the neighborhood plans and somehow reconcile them with that development and somehow make an impact on the traffic on that road.
Mr. Paver.
Thank you. Burnett Road has been a source of consternation for me over the last few years. I'm a lifelong resident of Austin, and I grew up in Crestview and Allendale, which is either side of Burnett Road, running through the heart of this district. The problem is that we have scattershot development. We've got a lot of vertical mixed use along the corridor, and we have turn lanes in some areas and not in others. What we need to do along Burnett Road, like we need to do along Lamar and these other activity corridors that the city has named, is we need to focus public transportation into areas of development, direct development away from existing neighborhoods, and put people in places that have So until we have that, we have these transit stops, like a grocery store, and a place that makes it convenient enough for people to get out of their car, by identifying them, then you're going to have people make that choice. And that's what we need to do along the road, because we cannot expand that thoroughfare. It's not going to happen. Neighborhoods aren't going to allow it. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Poole.
Well, that's definitely an activity corridor, and we need to improve the traffic flow there. It needs to flow more freely. There needs to be better. The sidewalks need to be paved. The bus stops and bike lanes need to be properly separated and safe. Any new development that is along that area needs to have soft edges and step down so it doesn't interfere with the established residential neighborhoods that are on the other side of it. And make sure having a destination for shopping with a lot of unique, homegrown, small business, local and traffic flow.
Plans. I want my money to the bicyclists. They're going to be paying for their own improvements. I want to expand public transportation. If you give somebody an option to go take the bus and have a good time and come back without having to worry about driving, have to worry about traffic or police pull over in other cities. See what happens at a $1.5 billion train. Give us the option and everything. It'll wait. Really affect a system that works. People will come to it and people will do it, and we'll see this naturally decrease. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Mr. Boyd?
Well, on one hand, Burnett Road has always been a thoroughfare. After all, it is the road to Burnett. But you know, absolutely, you know, it needs to work better. We need people transportation choices, including, you know, places, you know, to live. They're convenient to transit, safe ways to walk along Burnett. To better manage intersections, better manage the flow. Makes it easier to cross, break the traffic, help improvements. One of the big things, certainly, I'm interested from ACC Northridge to the Kramer Lane Station, to the Domain, to the Pickle Campus, to the Arboretum and Jollyville Road, and just looking at that corridor and improving, transit, bicycling, and pedestrian connections all through that, giving people some real choices in there.
Thank you. Mr. Ingram?
Absolutely. So as it pertains to Burnett Road and the improvements that need to be done there, the first thing I would do is work with the surrounding neighborhood associations to make sure that their neighborhood plans are protected in whatever changes are implemented in the Burnett area. Aside from that, I have faith in the market that the businesses that are going to open there are going road improvements be sent in that area, and we're not other that wouldn't cost $1 billion or require any roads to be improved. This is something we could do, on day one once elected to help improve traffic.
Neighborhoods are safe and they're not getting that trapped through traffic. What at the building there one, and I've been talking about that, and the reason why a lot of traffic and it's congestion. We don't have enough turn lanes to go left, or if you're north, you can't get through, and that has a lot of stacking issues. So as developers come along and they improve those roads, that stays out of our neighborhoods, and we do not have to rely on our taxes.
Is I saw yes.
To come to town, but at this point, Austin is a self-perpetuating machine. We need to focus on the workforce that exists here. We've got a real problem that we are suburbanizing poverty and pushing middle-class families and income earners out of Austin. So when it comes to the incentive packages, I'd like to see them focus on small businesses that are here, and I would also like them to focus on skilled labor jobs for lower-income families. We need to include these people in our local economy. Without diversity here, we lose part of the character that makes Austin unique, so we need to focus on that now. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Poole?
Yeah, I've been campaigning on stopping the incentives to attract big corporations to move to Austin in those instances when they would come here anyway, and also the subsidies to support downtown development like the Marriott. We gave them $4 million in incentives to build the Marriott, and they were locating down there because that's where the convention center is. That is where they were going to locate. They were not going to locate out in the suburbs, so us paying their way to locate downtown just doesn't make any sense. Paying the way, though, for operations and maintenance of our parks, pools, and libraries does make sense. And when we give incentives and subsidies to big corporations, that's taking away from our ability to properly maintain and keep our maintain our parks, pools, and libraries, and keeping them well stocked with books. So I'm against the easy handout of incentives, and I want to focus on local small business and those community assets that we enjoyed when we were kids, so that our kids and our grandchildren will enjoy them as well.
Mr. Salazar.
I was born and raised in Austin, and being born and raised here, you know that Austin has a soul. And I think the incentives and having these big corporations come is kind of eating at that soul. So the only people I would incentivize is small business. I want to develop small business corridors that make sure that the businesses that I grew up around have the ability to stay around. I mean, a lot of businesses around Burnett and Lamar are closing down for the simple cost of dirt. My barber that I went to for 30 years had to close down because they had a family ailment, and the cost to keep his shop open was no longer an option. And that's actually when it really hit home for me. When you go to a person for 30 years to get your hair cut, and all of a sudden they can't be around, that kind of personalized it for me. But there's a million stories for a million Austinites with the same issues. The only people we need to incentivize is small businesses to make sure that the soul of Austin is vibrant and for the future to experience it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Mr. Boyd?
Well, I agree with my associate here. I think giving incentives, you know, a lot of Austin, you know, our local values of hiring equality, and also for hiring and using women-owned and minority-owned contractors and businesses. I think
jobs to Austin and to help them. While I think they should be focused on local small businesses, and I support the Austin Independent Business Alliance, for Austin, I of that incentive program. I can also speak when legals move to Austin, maybe 20-30 is from Austin site here when they open their doors in Austin. So, you know, from first and very beneficial. Certainly, we need to do a cost-benefit analysis.
I spoke a bit. Development. We don't need to do that here. One of the things that power plan way independent businesses, and we have a lot of them in North Austin. And I just don't understand that greed. And
log on the fire can use incentives very, very sparingly to assist local businesses that hire Austinites if they're willing to operate their businesses, expand their businesses, add locations in areas of the town that are underserved from employment opportunities, and would employ those kind of skill sets that have a tendency to be underutilized and experience long-term unemployment. But I'm a fiscal conservative. I'm not a candidate that will watch out for your pocket.
With it has problems that close the door on incentives. I think on a case-by-case basis, you have to look at it. I don't think we would turn down another Samsung. That was a $3 billion investment that's going to help the tech community for the next 30 to 50 years. It's changed East Austin and that whole area over there. Now, on the other hand, I think that we can periodically find something that an incentive that will bring a targeted business that can help either a particular geographic area or a particular class of people. And if that's the case, again, I don't want to close the door, but I think it's time that we pause and get a handle on this. I think both the Austin City Council and the Travis County Commissioners Court is re-examining that whole process.
Thank you. Michael?
Thanks, Shannon. We all agree that affordability, transportation, and property taxes are important issues. What issue or position separates you from the other candidates?
Start with Ms. Poole.
Well, as you have heard tonight, there are a lot of areas of agreement among the 8 of us here. I think what differentiates me from my years I've lived here, the depth of my involvement with the city and the community. Covered a number of areas just in the environment. Then there are the 4 city commissions I sat on that range from the Telecommunications Commission, where we expanded internet access into underserved parts of the city, and the Water Wastewater Commission, where I opposed Water Treatment Plant 4 because I saw that as a very expensive infrastructure project, and that has been borne out.
Thank you. Mr. Salazar.
Well, I've never been a politician. I've only been a servant to the people. And I don't think on this panel, clout and what they could give me, I just knew that, okay? And so, and this change is not just to change the faces of the city council, that they put on. To really ask yourself, do you want real change or only the illusion of change? Because if there's the illusion of change, then you have a variety of people to pick from. But only one of us has been truly vetted into the community and into the city. I can ask somebody about the problems in their native language. I've talked with Chinese, Burmese, Nepali, and Arabic people all having access to speaking to them in their native language. And that's the difference. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Boyd?
I think one of the things that distinguishes me is my experience, especially my experience on the area of transportation, where I've worked with in terms of groups like the Alliance of Public Transportation, Austin Metro Trails and Greenways. I've worked on projects like the Shoal Creek Trail and the expansion of the Shoal Creek Bikeway north of 183, which we're seeing as part of the MOPAC project. The work and talk of those transportation projects, and then again in 2012 when I served on the city's bond committee and on the transportation committee, and putting those the list of projects together, and we put together the first commitment to the steps toward improving I-35, the series of improvements that we're see go forward over the future years through many projects, but hopefully they're working toward what I think is the vision as expressed by Reconnect Austin of trying to really restore connections across between East Austin and downtown.
Thank you. Mr. Ingram?
Thank you. In 2013, when working with the Austin Police, I, was able to balance two very different sides, one of animal rights activists and one of police officers, obviously both with different concerns on the issue. So I showed the ability to communicate with different sides and find collaboration and compromise in order to reach a goal. I would like to expand on that in working with the Austin Police to demilitarize the Austin Police. We've seen the police state growing throughout the country, getting more and more out of control. I would like to see Austin lead by example in dialing that back and returning police officers to a protect and serve organization that the community can be proud of and feel a connection to. And some of the tactics of no-knock warrants, flashbang grenades, the use of armored personnel carriers are so often the victims of these civil rights violations are minorities, and I would like to see the Austin Police reconnect with the community, and I'd like to be a big part of that.
Thank you. Ms. Zone.
Let's be frank. There's really only one candidate here who's actually has training and over 20 years of actually dealing with urban issues. The candidate is me. I don't just sit on a board. I've been doing this every day. My training, my education, this is what I've done. And I didn't run for office or become an urban planner with my policy background to be a politician. I finally decided to run for public office because you need someone in there who really understands government. And you could talk about federal and state level, but it doesn't matter. Urban city laws, your government, local government code is written different. And if you think you could fix it because you had work experience at a different level or on a board, we're in trouble. We've got to get fixing our issues today, urban economics, environment protection. These are stuff that I deal with every day.
Thank you. Mr. English.
Well, let's be frank here. Everybody up here at one level or another is a committed individual. I give everyone up here some credit for that. But you have to look at perceptions and the way people approach things. I was very involved in 10-1 because when I thought it was a better system of government for years. I worked very diligently on that. Quickly assembled to stop the city council from transferring governance in Austin to
regarding city and business typically come down to, get going. Probably city for 5 years. All wanted to end recycling. We were all recycling, but it was going to put a lot of smoke out of business organization. They couldn't make that. What's called capture theory. Business often captures the regulatory process and turns the law in their favor. It's something I learned with the Restaurant Association, was real successful with it. That's how I look at things, and that's what I would do for both District 7 for the city of Austin. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Paver?
Thank you. I do have federal and state experience, of which I'm very proud. I spent 7 years working for Congressman Doggett. I also worked at the state legislature as legislative director for Mark Strama. And let me just emphasize that we need serious people running for office in Austin. We're at a critical period of time. And one of the ways in which these things tie in is through education. The city of Austin is promoting Imagine Austin, which is a compact, connected city where we propose to bring more density here. The impact that more density and families in this city may have on our public school system could be profound. But are we planning for that in any way? Are we talking to state officials about the money that needs to come here should more students come into the school district? This is just evidence of the sort of complex problems and interplay between the feds, the state, and the local government that is an important part of what happens in this city. So I don't see that as a negative. I see it as a positive, and how everything works at each level of government.
Something a little loaded, but I'll get the end. Do you have the political will to challenge the LTRA's contract with downstream corporate rice farmers? And do you have a policy vision for promoting and enforcing water conservation?
Well, I can say my first and foremost, my duty is to the city law. So if I evaluate that contract and it's a negative way, you know, we can pick what we're gonna do, if we're gonna take fluoride out of the water, if we're gonna do this, if we're gonna do that. Basically, and foremost, it is who's gonna do the best for Austin, regardless of what the blowback's gonna be, okay? I'm not here running for a place that I moved to and I like. I'm running to make my home better. My family's here. My family's buried here. This place is a part of me, and if we don't get other place, Austin for my entire life, and I don't plan to start stopping that. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
On a rice farm. River, though, where there's a lot more water. And certainly I understand that, cutting off water to the rice is something that planning the first state water here in the lower Colorado River. And it was clear that the day was coming in which there would not be water in the Colorado for the rice farms. And that day is now here. I think it's come a little bit sooner. So look at
implementing new technology so we can get better data. We're data in regards to how long this water is going. That's the technology industry, industry. Decisions that we made.
Opportunity is that we make sure that the really also are adopted the water, and I'm hoping that it could
some enemies, and if they have policies which don't give Austin a fair shake, I'll be happy to take them on. That's not a problem. But Austin faces not a water problem, a water crisis, and actions, serious actions, have to be taken immediately. The city recently commissioned a few weeks ago a water planning task force, which came up. Austin is far as far
to work in our in the repiping in our homes. And I'll also mention Water Treatment Plant 4. When the staff first came to the Water Wastewater Commission with their estimates, they said we were going
Thanks, Shannon. This one got a different response. You can probably ask it. From there.
Certainly, I've worked with Mike for many years, and Cheryl as well too, especially on the Wall Creek project. I worked very closely with her on that. I've worked closely with Mike on transportation matters. And during the campaign trail, I've gotten to know Steve Adler pretty well, and he's certainly coming out very forcefully. Certainly knocked on my door multiple times.
Thank you. Mr. Ingram?
I'm going to vote for Todd Phelps. I like the local Austinite, former Austin musician, and I think he comes with fresh ideas, much different than the members of the council that are running for mayor. So I like how he thinks outside of the box, and I think that he's got Austin's best interests in mind.
Ms. Zone?
Well, I agree that you're going to have to work with any council or every council person and mayor. And so to tie myself to one person publicly doesn't do good service to any of you here in District 7. I think it's wrong when you come out and support someone, and chances are if they don't win, now you have to try to make up and protect yourself and form a relationship. So I'm hoping that the best candidate is who's going to win, because I'm happy to work with them in starting January.
Thank you, Mr. English.
Well, my position is very similar to that. Through experience, being out on the campaign trail, I've met Cheryl, I've met Steve Adler, Mike Martinez, all of the candidates, and I can work with any of them. I think most of them have the best interest of Austin at heart. I do as well. So I think we can certainly find common ground and work together as a team. It is a critical leadership position. I ask you, the voters, just like you're doing here tonight, look at our backgrounds, look at our positions, decide who you think best represents you. In this district, I happen to think it's me. But do the same with the mayor's office. Support the individual that you think best represents your interest. That's what this election is all about, and I encourage you to go to forums, read the paper, form your own opinions.
Thank you, Mr. Whittle.
When we did our introductions, I was the one that said I'm becoming the contrarian here. I do support a lot of the things that the council has done. I think it's an unbelievably challenging job. I think that we're fortunate that we have a couple of council members running. Whether they win or not, I think that they've brought
I frankly haven't.
Well, I have an embarrassment. Talented, qualified. Whoever wins have to have a good, strong vision for leading the city, and the 10 district representatives will need to work in a close relationship with whoever that new mayor is, and I look forward to that opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. Finally, Mr. Salazar.
Yes, I actually had breakfast and lunch with almost all of them, and then I got to talk to the ones I didn't know, and I honestly too. But you know, do the same thing. Don't get up with all the hype. Listen, listen to who's backing them. Do everything else. All here to get a decision to make a better Austin. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all very much. Give them all a round of applause.